Okay, I know I've promised everyone to look into my collection, and I promise you it's coming very soon. But first, in this video, I thought, why don't I go over how I store and organize my collection? So let's get things rolling. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you as always for hanging out with me again, and I hope you've all had a great week so far. As I mentioned, in this video I'm going to go over how I store and organize my collection. All too often I go on trips and I come back with bags and bags of pressed pennies that I've collected along the way. And as much as I would love to spend all my spare time organizing them and just going through them, as I'm sure a lot of you know, life just kind of gets in the way and a lot of other things pop up. And eventually those little bags accumulate into larger bags of pennies, and it starts to get a little out of control. But eventually I do find time to go through and organize all those loose pressed pennies I've accumulated over time, and I really do enjoy the process. But my process, as with anything, has evolved and changed over time. When I first started collecting pressed pennies, I actually just started using those little small booklets that you can find at theme parks or zoos and aquariums, basically anywhere that has a pressed penny machine. Some of the booklets are customized for the location you've actually visited, but they also do have some generic ones that are available. But I found very quickly that at places like Disney, or even back when I was in New Jersey collecting coins all around the state, these booklets fill up really quickly. And before I knew it, I had these booklets all over the place, and it was kind of getting a little out of hand. So after about a year of just using those booklets to store my collection, I started investigating other methods because I needed something else. This just wasn't working any longer. But as you can see from this giant plastic tote filled with booklets, even though I don't use them, I still collect them for some reason. I do enjoy them. I like the designs on them. So that is a whole separate video maybe. Let me know down in the comments if you'd actually like me to go through this tote, and we can see all the different booklets that I've accumulated over the years. There are some interesting ones in there. Some I've actually had from fellow collectors that have actually created their own and sent them to me. So let me know if you're interested. We can always go through that. Since I don't use these booklets anymore, what do I use? Well, as I mentioned, over the years, it has changed and I've tried a few different methods, but eventually I just did go back to one of the very first methods that I saw a lot of other collectors using, which is a heavy-duty 3-ring binder and these little cardboard, what they call 2x2 flips. I usually get the binders from an office supply store like Staples or Office Max, but as with anything, you can also get them online. Initially, I underestimated my collection and made the mistake of getting small binders like 1 or 2 inch sizes, which my collection quickly outgrew. So now I usually just go straight for the big guys like a 4 or 5 inch heavy duty binder. One other item I usually get at Staples are these return address labels for your printer, but we'll get into those a little later. The 2x2 flips are pretty straightforward. You can see there's a crease along the middle where you would just fold them over with the penny in the middle. Then you just need to secure them along the sides so the pennies don't fall out. These flips can be purchased on Amazon or most coin collecting retailers. Just make sure you get the ones that are for elongated coins. They also come in sizes for unpressed pennies, nickels, many different coin denominations. If you get the ones that are not for elongated sizes, you won't be able to see the full press design through the window. Whenever possible, I like to load up on these and make sure I have plenty of them on hand so that I always have them if I need them. Next, you'll need to acquire some of these 2x2 plastic pocket pages. These will hold the flips, and then you can put them in the 3-ring binder. Again, these are usually available online or at any other coin supply retailer. Usually you can buy them in boxes of 50 or 100, and that way you'll always have plenty of them on hand. One last item to go over before we can start organizing these pennies is how I secure the coins into these cardboard flips. I have heard of some collectors using double-sided tape on the inside of the flips to help keep them nice and flat for the pocket pages. My only concern would be how long that tape would actually stay adhesive, but I guess if the coins are kept in the plastic pocket pages and not taken out very often, it probably doesn't really matter. My preferred method is to actually use a stapler. When I first started using these flips, all I had was a regular office stapler, and the staples would have a raised part on the back of the staple, which could get snagged on the pages or eventually puncture a hole through them over time. To try and combat this, I would just use a pair of pliers and would flatten them out. But then I actually found out from some other collectors that I should just save myself the extra effort and buy a flat cinch stapler, which basically does that for me, as you can see here. Alright, so here we go. We've got our bag of pennies. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you sit here while I organize all these. So in step 1, we have our 2x2 flips and we have our flat cinch stapler. Usually I'll just take a quick look at my pressed penny first to make sure it's nice and clean. I prefer to use BU or Brilliant Uncirculated pennies, so they usually come to me nice and clean, but if they do have any marks on them, I'll try to clean them up a bit. These ones look pretty good. Next, I take a look at the curvature of the penny. Sometimes you get a penny that has a bit of a curve to it after being pressed, and I'll use a pair of pliers to try and flatten it out a bit. But if there's only a slight curve, I usually just leave them as is because sometimes with the pliers you can actually damage the image on the penny. This next part is pretty straightforward. Grab your flip, place the penny inside of it, fold it over. I usually try to make sure the image is as centered as I can get it. Then grab your stapler and just start securing the flip. This is also something you can play with. I've seen some people use the staples very close to the window, as opposed to, I like to keep them more towards the outside or the edge. Sometimes I've also seen people use 2 or 3 staples instead of 4. It really just comes down to your own personal preference. This method I've found just works best for me. Once I've got all the pennies secured inside the flips, I next turn to labeling. Many collectors just handwrite the location and information directly on the flip. Unfortunately, my handwriting is not so great, so I prefer to actually print the labels on my computer. That's where those return address labels we picked up at Staples come into play. To start, just load a page of these labels in your printer. Then load up your favorite word processing software. I personally just use Microsoft Word, but these labels will work with any other software. As with any other labels you may have used in the past, you just need to load up the template. In Word, you would just go to the Mailings tab and click Labels, then select Options, then just pick the label brand and product number. This will then load up the template on a new page. Then, I just fill out each label with the information I want to include. For my collection, I start with an abbreviation of either the state or theme park, then the location. Then I move down a couple of lines and give a really brief description of the press design. For Disney and some other theme parks that have large number of pressed pennies, I keep them in their own binder, so the abbreviations I use for those labels is to designate which park the design is located, like MK for Magic Kingdom or EPT for Epcot. I do this also for the California parks, and we'll use DL for Disneyland or DCA for California Adventure. Again, this is purely up to your taste and how you want to organize them. I know some collectors that will also list the date they pressed the penny on the label, or they will list whether the penny is copper or zinc. You can put whatever you want there. You are just limited to the size of the label and the real estate available on the 2x2 flip. Once the labels have been typed up, just print them out. I did it one time, just put the entire label right on the front of the flip, but I found it was just a little too large and would cover the design, which I didn't really like. So I took it one step further. And I'll take a pair of scissors and basically just cut the label right in half. The location will go up at the top, and the design description goes along the bottom. The last part is pretty simple. Grab your binder, you've got your newly labeled 2x2 flip, and you just insert the flip into your plastic page that's already in your binder. And here are some other ones you can see that I have labeled for SeaWorld, just in this example. As my collection has grown, these binders slowly get split out into more and more specific groups. Originally, my Walt Disney World pennies would have been in one single binder with all my other Florida pennies, but that quickly outgrew the binder, so now it actually has multiple binders just for my Disney collection. I also have binders for different states and even one for Canadian pennies only. I do really like this method and just find that it works best for my organization style. Every so often I do find time to go through them and really just enjoy looking at my collection and remembering the vacations we took or the new park openings we visited to get some of these pennies. And to me, that's really what it's all about. As with any collection, it always brings back some great memories that I will truly cherish. That's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully you found something useful that you can use in your own personal collection. Let me know in the comments below. How do you store your collection? Or maybe you just have more questions about my method, and I'd be more than happy to help. If you haven't already, be sure to click the subscribe button and that notification bell so you're made aware every time I post a new video. We have seen a lot of new subscribers, and I really do appreciate you and all the support that everyone's been giving us. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I enjoy spending our time each week together. I do hope you enjoy it. And as always, keep on pressing.